almost 15 years, I started every single morning the same way. Before I said good morning to anyone, before I even put on my slippers, I was already reaching for my coffee. My name is Dorothy. I'm 79 years old, and I thought that coffee was the healthiest thing I could do for myself. I thought I was being disciplined. I thought I was being smart. What I didn't know, what nobody ever sat down and told me, is that what I was doing every morning was quietly wrecking my blood sugar before the day even started. And if you're over 60 and you drink coffee, you need to hear what I'm about to tell you. I'm not here to scare you away from coffee. I still drink it every morning. But the way I was drinking it, the exact habit I had, was doing something to my body that took me years to figure out. And the fix was so simple, so embarrassingly simple, that when I finally understood it, I almost laughed. Almost. I want to take you back to about 2 years ago. I was waking up tired, not just a little groggy. I mean the kind of tired where you slept 7 hours and you still feel like you've been dragged through the day before it even begins. My energy would spike around 9 in the morning, crash hard by 11. And then I'd spend the rest of the afternoon feeling foggy and irritable. I blamed age. I blamed the weather. I blamed everything except the one thing that was actually causing it: my morning coffee on an empty stomach. Here's what my mornings looked like. I'd wake up around 6:30, walk straight to the kitchen, brew a full pot of dark roast, pour myself a large mug, sometimes add a spoonful of sugar, and sit down with it for about 45 minutes before I ate anything at all. I loved that quiet time. It felt like the coffee was waking me up, getting me ready. But what was actually happening inside my body during those 45 minutes was something very different from what I imagined. My daughter, she's a registered dietitian, came to visit me last spring. She watched my morning routine for 2 days without saying anything. On the third morning, she sat down across from me at the kitchen table and asked me a very direct question. She said, "Mom, do you know what your blood sugar is doing right now?" I told her I had no idea. She explained it to me in a way that I've never forgotten, and that's exactly what I want to share with you now. When you wake up in the morning, your body has been fasting for 8, 9, sometimes 10 hours. Your blood sugar is already low. Your body is in a kind of standby mode, waiting for fuel. Now, when you drink coffee on an empty stomach, especially if it has any sugar in it, your body reacts almost immediately. Coffee triggers your adrenal glands to release cortisol, which is a stress hormone. And cortisol, when there's no food in your stomach to balance things out, sends a signal to your liver that basically says, "Release stored sugar into the blood right now." Think of it like a thermostat in a house. When the heat drops too low, the thermostat kicks the furnace on full blast. Your body does the same thing, except instead of heat, it's pumping glucose into your bloodstream. And when that glucose spike comes crashing down, which it does quickly on an empty stomach, that's when you feel the crash. That's the fog. That's the fatigue. That's the irritability at 11 in the morning that I kept blaming on bad sleep. My daughter also told me something a nutritionist had shared with her during her training, that for people over 60, this response is significantly stronger than it is in younger adults. As we age, our cells become less sensitive to insulin, which is the hormone that clears sugar out of the blood. So the spike goes higher, and it takes longer to come down. A 35-year-old might barely notice this, but at 70, at 75, at 79, the body just doesn't have the same buffer it once did. She told me about a study done on older adults that looked at their blood glucose levels first thing in the morning, depending on whether they ate before their coffee or after. The group that ate even just a small amount of food before their coffee, something with a little protein, a little fat, had significantly more stable blood sugar throughout the entire morning. Not just for an hour, for the whole morning. The group that drank coffee first on an empty stomach showed those big spikes and crashes I just described. And that pattern, repeated every single day for years, takes a real toll. Now, what exactly do you eat before your coffee? That's the part I want to make very clear, because this is where I made a second mistake when I first started trying to fix this. I thought, fine, I'll just eat something before my coffee. So I grabbed a banana. Seemed healthy, right? But my daughter shook her head. A banana on an empty stomach first thing in the morning is actually one of the worst things you can eat if you're concerned about blood sugar, because it's almost entirely natural sugar and fast digesting carbohydrates. It causes a spike almost as fast as a spoonful of table sugar. I was trading one problem for a slightly different version of the same problem. What you want before that first cup of coffee is something with protein and healthy fat, something that slows digestion, keeps your blood sugar stable, and gives your body actual fuel instead of a quick sugar rush. A handful of raw almonds was the first thing that changed my mornings. Just a small handful, maybe 12 or 15 almonds, eaten about 10 minutes before I pour my coffee. That's it, that one change. The almonds give my body something to work with. The fat and protein slow everything down. My coffee then does what I always wanted it to do. It gently wakes me up. It sharpens my mind, without triggering that cortisol spike and blood sugar roller coaster. Some mornings I eat a boiled egg instead. Hard-boiled, prepared the night before. Takes 10 seconds to peel. One egg. That's the whole thing. One egg before coffee completely changed my 11 o'clock energy crash. Gone. Not reduced. Gone. A small piece of aged cheese also works beautifully, or a few walnuts if almonds aren't your preference. The point isn't the specific food. The point is protein, a little fat, something real before the first sip. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share is the part most people over 60 never hear. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do it now, so you never miss something important like this. Now I need to be very direct with you about some specific habits and foods that made my mornings worse, because I know a lot of us are doing these things without realizing it. The first is sugar in the coffee. I stopped adding sugar to my morning coffee entirely. Even a small spoonful of white sugar on top of an empty stomach and the cortisol spike I already told you about is like throwing gasoline on a fire. If I need a little sweetness, I use a tiny pinch of cinnamon instead. And I'm going to tell you something about cinnamon. A nutritionist told me that just a quarter teaspoon of real cinnamon in your coffee can actually help your cells respond better to insulin throughout the morning. I can't promise it will do the same for you, but I can tell you that after I made that switch, my mid-morning hunger and cravings dropped noticeably. The second habit I changed was how much coffee I was drinking before noon. I was on my third cup before 10 in the morning. Each cup was continuing to stimulate that cortisol response. I brought it down to 2 cups total before noon, and I always have that small protein snack between them if the morning goes long. The third thing I completely stopped putting in my coffee, and this one surprised me, was flavored creamers. I had been using a hazelnut flavored creamer for years. I loved it. But when I finally read the ingredient list, the second ingredient was corn syrup. I was adding what was essentially liquid candy to my coffee every morning while wondering why I felt terrible. I switched to a small pour of whole cream. Real cream, just a splash. It has almost no sugar, it has natural fat, and it tastes richer than any flavored creamer I've ever tried. The fourth change was timing. I used to drink coffee right up until about 2 in the afternoon. My daughter told me that for people our age, caffeine stays in the system much longer than it did when we were younger. At 79, it can take my body up to 9 hours to fully process a cup of coffee. So the cup I was having at 2 in the afternoon was still partially active in my system at 11 at night. And it was interfering with the deep sleep I needed to regulate my blood sugar the following morning. I cut my last cup off at noon. Sleep improved within the first week. I want to close with something personal. I spent a lot of years feeling like the fatigue and the brain fog and the mood swings were just what getting older felt like. I thought it was inevitable. I accepted it. And I think that's what a lot of us do. We accept things as just aging, when sometimes the thing causing the problem is sitting on our kitchen counter, and we walk past it every single morning. I am 79 years old, and my mornings feel better now than they did at 72. Not because of anything complicated or expensive, because of a handful of almonds, because I read the back of a creamer bottle, because my daughter sat across from me at my kitchen table and asked me one good question. You don't need to change everything. You just need to change the right thing. Eat something small and real, almonds, a boiled egg, a few walnuts before your coffee. Skip the sugar or replace it with cinnamon. Read what's in your creamer. Stop drinking coffee after noon. Those 4 things done consistently made a difference I can actually feel every single day. If this helped you, please share it with someone you love who is over 60, because I wish someone had told me this 20 years ago.